Awesome. All right. Well, hope everybody had a great weekend. I'm working from home today, trying to get caught up on a few things. So that's the background you have behind you or behind me. So we're going to continue with control. I'll share my screen here, and it's always kind of a fun topic. You know, we've kind of touched on this a couple times in our sessions in different ways. So this will be part 2, and we'll have one more part. We'll do a part 3. You know, I'll talk about that before we end today. So talking about control, right? Which is, as they say, control is an illusion. It's better if you just accept that. So just to kind of review what we went over last week. So, you know, the more we try to control things, the more we run into limits, right? And the more we try to control things, actually, the fewer things we can control. And our world gets artificially narrow. So the more we try to control, the more the kind of control patterns set in. And then what ends up happening is that our world becomes more narrow as we're trying to control more things, right? And so you're trying to get your arms around a lot of different things, but the reality of it is only so much, right? And eventually you end up having a very narrow world that you participate in, because if we're always focused on trying to control things, then what ends up happening is that life becomes small, right? As opposed to just being able to, you know, work your way through things. And we'll talk a little bit about that. And one of the things we talked about last week was, you know, try not to control the world around you, but rather control how you interact with the world. Okay. And so when we're trying to control too much, right, we're limiting our participation just by the nature of it. Okay. So we really can't affect what goes on around us, but what we can affect 100% of the time, all the time, okay, is how we interact with what's going on around us. Okay. So the world's going to do whatever it wants to do. People are going to do whatever they choose to do. The only thing that matters really is how we interact with it. We had a homework assignment last week, you know, to when was there a time that you've been too controlling? And you know, what did that look like? What did that feel like? How would you have done something differently? And you know, I kind of chose this graphic, this picture, last week, because really life is about a series of emerging, okay, or merging into things, right? Events, you know, merge into each other. So we have, you know, kind of you know, burgeoning or emerging situations, and then the question is, as we interact with them, how do we merge with them? Okay. And it's really a little bit like, you know, going down this kind of lazy river. You know, we're all kind of going on a path, and the question really is, how do we interact? Okay, right? How do we intersect with each other? So, you know, letting go of control is really about making space for new and better options. Okay. So we talked about too much control, okay, narrows things, right? It narrows our participation. Now, let's just pause here for a second, okay? You know, clearly when we get up in the morning, right, we control how we dress. We want to control, you know, our car, right? We want to, you know, we have to control our calendars, and you know, there's certain things, of course, that we have to, you know, have control over, so that we just, you know, navigate being here day to day. But in the broader sense, though, right, letting go of control really is about making space for new things. Okay, because if we're participating in a way that narrows, right, the scope of our experiences, then just by the nature of that, all right, we are limiting the amount of new options, and we're not creating space, we're actually contracting the space. Okay. So when we do this, we're creating a safe space for new options to present themselves. So when we're more open, okay, and less controlling. Now that doesn't mean ignorance, and it doesn't mean not paying attention. It doesn't mean any of that, okay? And that's what we're going to talk about next week. It's about how do we create a safe space, okay, for new options, new energies to present themselves, right? And then by not trying to control too much, okay, and needlessly control, what we're doing is that we're creating a safe space, all right, for new things to come in, for us to choose, okay? So this is about creating safe space for new things to come in that we can choose. And kind of, isn't that really the ultimate control? Is that we get the choice of more options, not fewer options, right? So if we're controlling things too much, we narrow what we participate in, which means we naturally narrow the opportunities that we're going to have. But if we're more open, okay, and we only worry about how we're interacting with things, okay, then we're going to have more interactions, which means we're going to have more choices, which means we're allowing in, right? We're allowing in more options. But when we control, the control itself fills the space in a drop, and it blocks out all the other attractions, right? So, there's all sorts of stuff about law of attraction, okay, that's been around for a long time. But part of the law of attraction is allowing, okay? And so when we're controlling, the control itself, okay, becomes like the cement mixer. It fills the space and it doesn't allow anything else to come in, and it blocks out all the other things that we might want to attract for our consideration. We're only attracting them for our consideration, right? And now we're participating. We've got options, okay? So I think, one of the things that I hope we can leave with today is understand that we're the gatekeeper, okay? We, right? Each one of us individually, we're the gatekeeper for all the new things to come up and come into our lives. And if we give up control, then the interactions will guide you, okay? Not having the control limits you, all right? Because control, in by its nature, too much of it is self-limiting. And so we want the interactions to guide us, okay? And we don't want our controlling to limit us, right? And so next week, though, what we're going to talk about is kind of living in between. How do we live in between, control and allowing? And that's a little bit of witchcraft, all right? But that's going to be a fun topic. And I got some really good examples for us to work with. So we're the gatekeeper for how much we choose to participate in, and how much we choose to participate in, and how much of life and the options that we allow in really determined by how we view our interactions around us. Like, so if we're going to control a lot of things, we're not going to have a lot of interactions, just because by the nature of it, if I'm controlling things too much, I'm kind of down to one thing, right? I want one outcome. This is all I want. I want this, all right? As opposed to, well, I want to be successful, or I want to be healthy, or I want to have a healthy family, or whatever the case may be. Well, there's lots of ways to get there, okay? This doesn't have to be one way. And we're the gatekeepers for that, right? We're the ones that determine how that happens, nobody else, all right? The whole victim mentality and all that, any time we all do it, we all have it, okay? That's part of the human condition. But the only person who's really responsible for us is us. And the only person who's responsible for how much of life we participate in and what our options are, it's really us. It really isn't anybody else, okay? Now, I'll just leave you with this. So I think from my view, that when we allow more things to come to us because we've created a safe space, that's like true freedom, because now we have the freedom of more choices. And I love this quote. I've used it a couple times. So when I let go of what I am, I become what I might be. So we'll leave it there. And next week, we're going to talk about, living in between control and allowing and participation. So that should be a lot of fun. I'm looking forward to it. All righty. Well, we don't have any chats. And if anybody wants to share anything real quick, you're always welcome to chat some things in. So please don't hold back. But it looks like we're good for today. And have an amazing week. And I will see everybody next Monday. Take care.